What's going on, everybody? John with Refinery Fragrances back for another video. Today we are going to be taking a look at Ombre Leather by Tom Ford. Before I hop into the review, if you guys are interested in fragrance-related content like this and you are not subscribed, please do consider hitting that subscribe button as well as the bell icon for notifications for future videos. Okay, so Ombre Leather was released in 2018 by the company Tom Ford. The nose behind this fragrance is Sonia Constant. And for notes, in the top we have cardamom. In the middle we have leather and jasmine sambac. And in the base there is amber, moss, and patchouli. So this fragrance really can't be talked about much without mentioning not only the original Ombre Leather by Tom Ford, but also Tuscan leather. And there's various other fragrances that remind me a lot of Ombre Leather, and we'll get into that in just a little bit. But this is a true leather fragrance, so you have got to like leather. If you are familiar with Tuscan leather, I think you'll really like this fragrance. If you like that, this is going to be on the, I would say, it's a little less dry than Tuscan leather. It's got a little bit, it seems a little bit fruitier. Even though raspberry is not mentioned in the note list, there is a raspberry accord in Tuscan leather. I also pick it up fairly prominently here. And that was something I was looking out for because Tuscan leather is one of my absolute favorite fragrances. I mean, when I was first getting into niche perfume, I would say Tuscan leather and Aventus were like my holy grail fragrances, okay? So I don't own Tuscan leather anymore, if that gives you an idea of how much I love Ombre Leather. It's so, so good. And it does take the place for Tuscan leather for me. I'll get to why in just a little bit. First of all, let's dive into some different aspects of Ombre Leather. So let's talk about performance. Performance on Ombre Leather is pretty crazy. And when I say pretty crazy, I mean I will spray it on midday the day before, and I can wake up the next day and get a whiff of it. It is very pungent, and it hangs out on the skin for a very long time, which is what I love. And it's actually much longer lasting than the current formulations of Tuscan leather, at least in my mind. So for seasons for Ombre Leather, I would say, if you had to pick a season, I would say fall and winter, okay? Because it is a leather-based fragrance. It does have some heavier notes. It's got the amber in there, the leather and the patchouli. But to be honest, I do think that this is light enough in terms of the scent profile to actually be fairly versatile. I wouldn't say wear it in the hot, hot summer days, but you could absolutely get away with this on a cooler summer night, on some spring days and nights. Like right now is perfect time, in my opinion, for Ombre Leather. But then, you know, just coming out of the winter season, it works there too. It has enough strength to carry through in the cold weather. So yeah, it is really pretty versatile, but you know, if you're like me and you have a ton of fragrances and you're trying to narrow it down to the absolute best seasons and occasions, I would say cooler weather. And this does have kind of an upscale vibe to it. So you could certainly reserve it for maybe special occasions, weddings, date nights, things of that nature. It just is a very refined and upscale smelling fragrance. So for those that don't know, Tom Ford actually released a original version of Ombre Leather, and it was called Ombre Leather 16, and that fragrance was to commemorate the fashion show that was happening in the fall of 2016. The fragrance released on Fashion Week in 2016, and I believe the scent for the entire event, the entire Tom Ford runway show, was Ombre Leather. So it was just being like pumped into the room, if I remember hearing this correctly, just pumped into the room. Everybody was wearing it. People, they were passing out samples and things of that nature. It was just something that went in tandem with the fashion show of 2016. So it was actually starting in the private line of Tom Ford fragrances. So they have the private blend, Most of you probably know that. Most of you probably know Tuscan Leather from the Private Blend. So they came out with Ombre Leather 16. Now, when I first smelled Ombre Leather 16, I was kind of confused because I'm like, why would they release this? Because this smells so much like Tuscan Leather to me, but maybe a bit more floral, maybe a little bit smoother. So I wasn't really sure why. So I kind of disregarded it because I just loved Tuscan Leather. I owned Tuscan Leather at the time and just never really felt the need to own Ombre Leather 16 at a, $220 price point or $230 price point for a 50 mil. It just, I wasn't wanting to spend that money because I had something that kind of fit that bill already. Fast forward a couple of years, and I'm hearing that they're putting Ombre Leather in the Signature line, which the Signature line typically comes in bottles that look similar to this. They're either cylindrical or they have like I can't even begin to try to name that shape, but you know what I'm talking about, like the Gray Vetiver and Tom Ford Extreme and the ones that are in those, that bottle style. So they have a few different ones, but that is the Signature collection. So I was pretty excited to hear that it was coming to the Signature collection because I know that it's a cheaper price point, and it really is. So where Ombre Leather 16 was 200, and I think at the time 30 bucks, 230 bucks, 225 for a 50 mil. This is 180 for 100 mil. So the price point on this and the value for money is actually really good. You get a whole lot more juice. You get double the juice in here for less than the original Ombre Leather 16, which I'm very excited about. So this came out in 2018 and I sampled it and I'm like, yeah, it smells a lot like, a lot like Tuscan Leather. So I liked it, but again, I still had Tuscan Leather. Fast forward to now, I don't have Tuscan Leather, but I do own this. I like this better. I like this better. Let me tell you why. So Tuscan Leather, I just love leather in perfume in general. I love leather as a note. It's so, you just don't smell it on everybody, right? You don't smell good quality leather fragrances on many people. Generally, I might get a whiff of somebody wearing Dior Sauvage. I might get a whiff of somebody wearing like Le Male, whatever. And no shame if you do. They're great fragrances, classics. But, a good quality leather scent wasn't readily available everywhere. Tom Ford Private Blends are not readily available everywhere. So this came out, I put my nose on this. This to me is like a slightly more mass appealing Tuscan Leather. So where Tuscan Leather is dry and ashy and almost very smoky, especially in the dry down, where the raspberry starts to go into the background, this does not go in that direction. This actually stays a bit more, not aquatic, but watery, if that makes sense. So the leather is not nearly as dry in this. The raspberry accord that, again, is not listed, but I do pick up on it, adds a really nice fruity touch to it. And then there's almost this like fabric quality to it. It's very odd. It's almost like musky, like cotton, like probably Isoe Super, but there's something in here that gives it this really nice fabric quality. And I'm not talking about leather. I'm talking about something else like a cotton. It's very odd. And my wife actually, especially in the dry down, she'll smell it and go, man, it smells like dryer sheets. I don't get dryer sheets out of this, but what I do get, and some of you might find this to be weird, I actually get dryer fumes out of it. And I love the smell of dryer fumes. It just has this warm, fluffy, airy type of a scent. That is in here pretty prominently to me. So some other fragrances do that as well, but just not as good as this. So I can, first to mind is Oud Leather by Montal. That was another fragrance I smelled and I'm like, man, this smells so much like Tuscan Leather. I bought that fragrance. It's definitely different than Tuscan Leather and it's actually more watery. It's on the way opposite end of Tuscan Leather in terms of dryness. Tuscan Leather, extremely dry. Oud Leather, very like a watery type of leather. And this sits perfectly in the middle. And I don't know what it is about this fragrance. It just fills the void in my collection. I had no leather fragrances after I had Tuscan Leather, and this fits it perfectly. I don't really know, and maybe you guys can let me know down in the comments some of your favorite leather fragrances, because I'm really going to be curious to see and just explore more leathers. I want to know what good leathers are out there. I know like Duetto Golden Boy is out there. You know, Oud Leather is out there, like Yukawam, which is a Tuscan leather clone. They're out there, but those fragrances aren't readily available. So sometimes it's just hard to get my nose on, and it's like out of sight, out of mind. But I want to try more leather fragrances like this because I just love it. It fits what I feel like my personality is. Typically they're long lasting, so it checks a lot of the boxes for me in that regard. All in all, guys, I have got to recommend Ombre Leather by Tom Ford. It is just an amazing leather fragrance. It's definitely one I can see, you know, people who are just getting into fragrance that maybe are wanting to dive into something a little bit darker, a little bit more daring, just not, you know, run-of-the-mill aquatics or things of that nature. Definitely give this a try. It is a big, big compliment puller too. I would say almost every time I wear this, I get a compliment. Actually wore this out last night. Got 2 compliments from 2 female friends. My wife and I went out to get some drinks. We had a couple of friends join us. They both of those friends complimented me on this fragrance and said it smells amazing. So if you're wanting compliments, performance, versatility, I cannot recommend this enough. That's all for me, guys, on Ombre Leather by Tom Ford. Let me know down in the comments, though, what leathers are you guys wearing? Let me know some of your favorites, because like I said, I'm trying to dive more into leathers. I just love them so much. Yeah, let's get a conversation started down in the comments, and we'll see you soon.